one of the top 2 or 3 questions that I get asked on a regular basis is, what about the Sabbath, the seventh-day Sabbath? Should Christians keep the seventh-day Sabbath? Are Christians required to keep the seventh-day Sabbath? Let me answer the question succinctly, and then I'll give the scriptural reasons for it, all right? Number 1, Christians are absolutely free to observe the seventh-day Sabbath and set that aside as a day of rest and a day holy to the Lord. Number 2, there is no evidence in the New Testament that the Sabbath was changed to Sunday. So there is certainly not a command to observe an 8th-day Sabbath or a first day of the week Sabbath. Number 3, bottom line, the New Testament gives liberty here, and there is not a binding command on Christians, believers in Jesus in the New Testament, to observe a 7th-day Sabbath. So yes, free to do it, number 1. Number 2, no explicit command to follow a Sunday or observe a Sunday Sabbath in the New Testament. Number 3, there is liberty there. All right, now, why do I say that scripturally? Genesis, the 2nd chapter, we know when God rests on the 7th day, ceases from his labor, he sanctifies that day. Now, it doesn't say it was universally given to mankind, but we don't see it come up again until Exodus 16, where God now teaches Israel about the Sabbath. It seems to be something new for them. And then in Exodus chapter 20, in the 10 Commandments, Exodus chapter 20, there the Sabbath commandment is given to remember the Sabbath day and to keep it holy. And you work for 6 days and the 7th is a rest day. And it has several verses where it's laid out in Exodus 20, then reiterated again in Deuteronomy, the 5th chapter. And then God makes clear in the scriptures that this was a covenantal sign between him and Israel. So we never see in the Old Testament God judging any nation in the world about Sabbath observance, only Israel, because it was a covenant sign. Now, Jesus comes to fulfill what's written in Moses and the prophets. He doesn't come to abolish, he comes to fulfill. And many of the teachings there he brings to their full meaning. So on the highest level, we now find rest in Jesus. Matthew 11:28, come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, I'll give you rest. We find rest for our souls in him. We cease from our own labors to strive to somehow be accepted by God. We receive that forgiveness. We receive that rest. The question is, well, what about on a practical level? As Gentiles were being added to the body, did they observe the 7th-day Sabbath? They were free to, but nowhere in the New Testament is a command given for Gentile believers to observe a 7th-day Sabbath. And in fact, in Colossians, the 2nd chapter, Paul even warns about it. Don't let anyone judge you over this, meaning don't let anyone put you under pressure about this. You say, well, maybe he means don't let them judge you for doing it. Well, here's the whole thing. He says the Sabbath is only the shadow. The substance is found in the Messiah. The substance is found in Christ. So don't let anyone judge you based on this. And Romans 14, although I don't think it's directly addressing the Sabbath there, it gives the principle. Everyone has liberty before the Lord as to what day is set aside, or if every day is set aside equally to the Lord. So let us not judge one another over this. Many Messianic Jews in covenantal solidarity with Israel worship in a Messianic synagogue on the Sabbath, and it also sends a message to our Jewish people that, yes, we are Jews and we continue to be Jews and follow Jesus, and we ought not to judge them. Well, why aren't they doing it on a Sunday? No, there's no New Testament command to do it on a Sunday. On the other hand, we know from pretty early in church history that believers would gather before work on a Sunday morning or after work on a Sunday night to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus, and that became more and more customary, so that day became set aside. We have liberty there.